All right, welcome to Starting Five here on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. Thanks for joining me this morning. Make sure you check out the latest episodes of Five on the Floor. We did a Five on the Floor live last night after the Dame meeting with the Portland Trailblazers. I'm going to go forward on that a little bit today. Our producer is Manny Chang. We appreciate him doing this for us. Our sponsors are All Pro Construction Builders. You can find them at allproconstructionbuilders.com. Our guy Danny, his family, the rest of his team using those locally made, American made products, getting you ready for a hurricane. We know the hurricane season has already started in South Florida. The name storms are coming. Make sure you get your house, your business fortified. Use All Pro Construction Builders. Go to allproconstructionbuilders.com. Mention Five Reasons. You'll get a discount. Also, they can do the renovations for you, too. If you're just planning on staying in your house, we know how the housing market is right now. Might be better to stay and make it look better. Go to 305-484-4429. That's 305-484-4429. Reach out to Danny and his family there, or allproconstructionbuilders.com. Also, our guy, Dr. Jonathan Chung, you can find him at chiropractickeystone.com. That's chiropractickeystone.com. If you've got back pain, neck pain, he's the guy to go to. He's based sort of in the Wellington area, but he can do the telehealth sessions. So if you've got any kind of problems, I know people have done this with him. They've had a great experience. Modern technology, what do you know? Reach out to him, Dr. Jonathan Chung, but check him out at chiropractickeystone.com. That's chiropractickeystone.com. He's got all kinds of new wave technology to make you feel better, especially post-concussion syndrome. He's a specialist in that. He's just a really smart dude, and he's been a big supporter of the network here. So chiropractickeystone.com. All right, let's get to it. We did an episode last night, a live on everything that was happening with Dame. And after that happened, this tends to happen, I get some phone calls and texts and all that. And I'm trying to sort through exactly what is going on here. And here's my perception of it now. I still believe that ultimately Dame's going to ask for a trade. Okay. But there's a bit of a game that's going on right now. And I can tell you that this is not from this particular theory is not from, because I'll tell you, okay, this is not from another executive or something like that, but it's an NBA media guy who's very plugged in. Okay. Happens to be a close friend. And right after I finished the stream last night, he reached out to me. He says, "You know what's happening here?" I said, "What?" He says, "This is what's happening." He says, "Dame does not want to be the bad guy." I said, "I know that. Dame doesn't want to be the bad guy. The Blazers don't want to be the bad guy. This is optics. This is, everybody knows it's better for everybody to part. The Blazers have a nice young core they can build around. They cannot get a premium veteran right now with Anthony Simons, okay, if that's what they're planning on doing, to build this thing out around Dame in a way that he can contend for a championship." So it's kind of like, okay, the fear, we talked about this last night, is that they could kind of thread the needle where they can give Dame a chance to compete, save face to stay. He ends up being a fifth or sixth seed, okay, but at least they tried. Okay, that's the fear that Heat fans have, that's what they're going to be able to do. All right, and I don't know that the players out there to even get Dame to that, but that is the fear of that. Okay, the other fear, of course, is that he asks out and then a team like Brooklyn comes over the top and offers more picks. That's a legitimate fear, and we'll get to that probably more in an episode of Five on the Floor tonight. But what my friend said, and I think this is it, and I know he talks to people in the league, so it's sourced, but it's secondhand. Okay, but this is a friend of mine who's very rarely wrong about this kind of stuff. Okay, and he works for a network where you hear a lot of stuff. Okay, and this is more than a theory. What he told me is this. He says, what's happening here is Aaron Goodwin and Dame have a meeting with the Blazers, and essentially they want to do right by Portland. There's a long-standing relationship there. They don't want it to be like, say, Dwayne was with, the Heat in 2016 or many of those other situations that we've seen. And so they want to end on good terms. And obviously, they need to cooperate with each other, right? Because, the Blazers need to get something back for Dame if they're going to trade him. And Dame needs to go to a place that he wants to go to. He doesn't have a no-trade clause. I mean, he has a contract that makes him hard to trade to a lot of teams. But he doesn't have a no-trade clause like Bradley Beal did. Bradley Beal just decided not to exercise that clause when Phoenix popped up versus Miami. So essentially what my guy said, and I think this has a lot of validity, is that they want to make sure Portland gets some return for him. Now, I know that's counterintuitive if you just want to win, right? If your only objective is to win where you go, then you basically say, I don't care what you get from me because I want to join the best possible team that I can. But you see, Dame doesn't really seem to think that way. I mean, even this idea that came out through Chris Haynes, where he said he didn't want to join a team that was too stacked. I mean, thank God nobody respects the Heat talent, because that helps the Heat actually in that particular dialogue, right? Because nobody respects Jimmy and Bam as ones and twos around the league. Well, not in the league they do, but in the media and the perception of it. So it doesn't seem like Dame is joining the kind of big three that, say, Durant was joining when he joined up with Golden State, right? Where it was just like, okay, Durant was just like overkill at that point, and he wasn't really needed. But in this case, Dame would be needed in Miami, but maybe not as much as the general perception. But he wants to feel like he's needed to win a championship, if that's going to end up happening. So I get that. So that's one way that he looks at things a little different. The other thing he seems to look at things a little different is our guy Sam Amick, our friend Sam Amick, was on the pod with us recently, reported that the Dame seems to think that a big three of him, Jeremy Grant, who currently is unsigned, or will be unsigned when the league year ends, and Draymond Green, that would be a suitable big three. That big three makes no sense, but whatever. Okay, Dame seems to think of these things differently. But the other thing that he seems to think of differently than maybe the average superstar would is that he is not trying to necessarily kill the team he's leaving on the way out, okay, to give himself the best possible chance to win. So in other words, he's not trying to make sure that Portland has no leverage so that they can't require anything back from him. So he's essentially, and this is, again, what my friend told me, you can take it or leave it, but again, this is a friend who's right a lot, okay, and it's always based on some kind of information that he has. He said Dame and Aaron Goodwin are playing along with the Blazers right now. That they're going to leave, but they're going to give Portland a chance to recoup something for Dame so that Dame doesn't leave them in tatters. That means that Dame joins a team that's not quite as good as he could have joined if he would just ask out. He's okay with that. All right? So what does that mean for the Heat? Well, what it means is the Heat can get Dame, but they're going to have to empty the tank. Like, I don't think there's going to be any kind of Dame discount here because of the way that Dame frames this and puts Portland in a corner. He's not going to put Portland in that corner. It does not appear. So that means anybody that you're attached to on the Miami Heat and any asset you're attached to on the Miami Heat other than Jimmy and Bam, get unattached. Like, if you want Dame, you have to get it in your head right now that everything but Jimmy and Bam has the chance to go. And so what does that mean? Okay, it means more than just the Kyle Lowry contract, which I don't think a lot of Heat fans care about. We've talked about Kyle as a neutral asset. Now, there was the option, and Brian Goins talked about this on the pod, of sort of trading Kyle to a team and sort of giving away picks to do it to a team with cap space. But those teams keep shrinking. Utah just took John Collins into their space. So right now, I think Barry had it at 4 teams that could absorb Kyle's contract, and 3 of them are complete non-contenders. So I don't know the value that Kyle Lowry's contract, unless you're getting a lot of picks with him, would have for those teams. I think it's going to be even if the Heat wanted to do that, I don't think that the option is going to be there for them. We'll see, but I don't think so. So, okay, Lowry's contract. If you're going to trade Duncan's contract, the problem with Duncan's contract is the extra time on it. So I don't know if Portland's going to want that or not. So, again, you're coming back to Tyler Hero here. And here's the thing with Tyler. I don't know that Portland needs Tyler. I mean, if they don't trade Anthony Simons, their backcourt is already set. They've got Scoot, they've got Simons, and they've got Shane Sharp, who can play the 2. So 2-3. So basically, they don't really need Tyler Hero. So it seems to me like Tyler Hero would go elsewhere. Now, maybe he goes to a team that could absorb him into space, like, say, and we've talked about this team a lot, the Spurs, who I know like Tyler Hero a lot. And actually, Tyler would be a perfect fit there because that team is going to be a young, rising team in the West, provided Wemby is what we think, and we think so, and they've got some young talent there. And Tyler's only 23 years old, and he could grow with that team as a young veteran who has playoff experience, even though not as much over the past couple of years as everybody would have liked. I think that's a legitimate possibility. But I think that Heat fans who think, okay, we're going to be able to keep Tyler, be able to keep future first, whether it's 27, 29, be able to keep some of the pick swaps, which to me don't mean that much because the Heat are never going to be bad enough for those to matter, in my view. and also and then we get to Jovic and Jaquez, which if I'm Portland, I ask for both. Now, whether the Heat give up both, I don't know. But, I mean, I certainly would ask for Jovic because they need a young front court player on that timeline. More, I think, than they would need Jaquez, in my view. But I would ask for both. Would you ask for Haywood Highsmith? Maybe. I mean, the Heat have to keep something around. But the other guy that I would not get too attached to if I was Heat fans, if you went all in on Dame, is Caleb. Because I look at it like this, okay? If Dame made it really hard on Portland, I think the Heat could probably hold on to Caleb Martin. Okay. And I've heard that Dame would like to play with Caleb as well as Jimmy and Bam. Caleb's the kind of guy you would want to play with. He plays everywhere. He doesn't complain. He doesn't need the ball in his hands, but he can do something with it. He's a perfect fit with this group. It's kind of like when the Heat went out and got Shaq to play with Wade, and they had Eddie Jones, but they also had UD who could plug a lot of those holes, right? A young UD, but Caleb is similar in that regard. He's about the same age UD was at that time. He doesn't play the same. Well, I guess now in the modern age, he does play that position quite a bit before, but he's not the same kind of player. But you get what I mean. He's a glue guy. He's a grit guy. He's a culture guy. He's you want to keep Caleb, but I'm just letting Heat fans know, and this comes in from Danny. Portland will ask for Caleb that if Dame is not going to make it hard on them, then I think Caleb is probably going to go. So just wrap this around everybody, okay? Wrap this around your heads. Everybody says Tyler's about to be Jordan Poole 2.0. Tyler might be top 5 in the league in scoring if he goes to the Spurs. I think everybody needs to understand there's a trade-off here. And you want Dame, but with Dame, you're also getting this loyalty thing, which I'm not going to call it a weird loyalty thing because this is what you wanted every superstar to be like, right? Everybody talked about during, LeBron and Durant and jumping teams and all this, and that's not how the old guys used to do it. Well, okay. I mean, it's one of the things that attracts you to Dame Lillard is that loyalty is who he is as a human being, okay, and what he's wanted to accomplish for a city that has not tasted that and has had a lot of bad luck in Portland where they've had a lot of great players who got hurt and they had a run, obviously, with Drexler and Porter and that group that got stymied by Jordan. And, we talk about Odin and Roy and then passing on Durant and all the other things that have happened in Portland. Dame has wanted to be that guy. And I entirely 100% respect that at the same time as I think it's time for him to go. But everyone needs to understand then that that's who you're getting. And you're getting someone who does not want to screw his team, that the only team he's known over the course of his, 11, 12 years, on the way out the door. He doesn't want to do it. And so as you watch this situation play out, recognize that you are probably looking at a roster, if you trade for Dame, that is Jimmy, Bam, Dame, and a bunch of minimums. That's where you're headed. And maybe, maybe one of the 2 drafted guys, Jovic or Jaquez, and maybe Gabe Vincent, depending on, where you are in terms of the apron and all those things. We talked about that with the second apron. We talked about that with Brian Goins. I mean, Max, this is the other thing here, okay? Not only is it a financial concern when it comes to Max and Gabe, but there's also, the concern of as you wait, does another team come in here with an offer on Saturday or late Friday, whenever this thing starts, for someone like Max or Gabe that the Heat, don't really have, because they're waiting on Dame, they don't have time to really make the kind of thoughtful decision on it that you would like them to make. If somebody comes in Max for $13, $14, $15 million a year, he's out the door. But I think that if it was a $10 million a year deal or something along those lines, I think the Heat would think about it. But again, if they've got this Dame thing hanging out there, they may lose him in the process. They may lose Gabe. And, the Heat's inclination is not going to be to go over the top to pay crazy money to these guys, in part because of the second apron and in part because of what happened with Duncan. So there is a definite risk that the Heat are taking here. I still believe it's a calculated risk. I think it's an educated risk because I know they believe ultimately Dame is going to push for the door, but everybody who wants him to kick the door is not happening. I don't think it's happening. I think that he and Aaron Goodwin are going to play along with Portland. And just one other thing here. The Heat know, I talked about this with Bartlestein and Beal, and it didn't matter. Ultimately, Bartlestein's son runs the Suns, so that certainly didn't help. But, the Heat have a long-standing relationship with Aaron Goodwin, too, because he repped Gary Payton. The Heat tried to get Gary Payton for years before they finally did. So, and Aaron Goodwin is an experienced agent. He actually had LeBron before CAA did, which was before Clutch did. Okay, so I mean, Aaron Goodwin's not an amateur. He's very connected to Dame in the same way that, say, Bernie Lee is very connected to Jimmy Butler now. Okay, where that is his primary guy. Gary Payton was his primary guy before that. Goodwin doesn't rep a ton of guys like some of these other agents. So they know what they're dealing with Aaron Goodwin. They're not going to be surprised by him, I don't believe. But I'm just telling you what my friend, who's very connected on these things, said. He said Dame are going to play ball with the Blazers. But ultimately, he's going to leave. So that's where I'm going to leave it with you. I don't know if you want to aggregate that or not. Probably don't, because it's not my report. But I'm just telling you, sometimes I go along with what others in the media who are connected say, and this particular person, I don't think has been steered wrong here. So that's my starting five. We'll have more five on the floor coming up. Thanks to everybody who joined us on Playback last night. That was a lot of fun where we went over Jaquez and Jovic. We will do another one of those. Also, I'm going to do an episode with Brady today on the Summer League. Guys says, what if we take back Yusuf Nurkic? I think that is another part of this that I think that Portland may demand. And I can tell you, Dame likes Nurkic and probably would have no issue with that. The problem is with him coming to Miami, and maybe he does end up moving Bam to the 4 at times. But and if he's slow-footed, all the rest of this, he has developed a little bit of an outside jumper, a 3. But I'll just say this. I mean, again, then you're taking back money, additional years, looking at more of a tax situation. They're too all in on this point for, I think, ownership to say no because of money when it comes to Dame. I do think that they may say no on money when it comes to others. We'll see what happens with Nurkic. All right, that's all we got for today. Manny's got to get to work. I got to get my daughter to camp. Have a very good day, everybody. Join us on the channel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, but also turn your notifications on. Got plenty of other content on the South Florida teams that you should definitely check out. Marlins are hot. We've got hurricane stuff. And obviously Messi coming here in the next 3 weeks or so to play his first match somewhere near the Waffle House off Commercial Boulevard. Have a good day, everybody.